Hello, welcome back to my channel. While I scratch myself. Didn't plan on jumping on here today, but just wanted to film a video. I started to say a quick video, but I think it may not be as quick. Okay, in the background here, you see my purse, and then you see my bunny, Easter bunny that I got for my 6-week-old, come on brain work, 6-week-old granddaughter, and I wasn't able to take it to her yesterday. So there's that. That's why there's a yellow bunny in the back of my camera here. But here's what I want to talk to you about today. We're retired, and so we had a huge money shift in our thought process once we retired. And I'm going to explain the background and then come all the way up to today. So, my husband and I worked all our lives. At age 25, he began putting at least 15% of his income into a 401k. He was hired, he went into orientation, and a woman came in and talked to him, which I'm sure was the person that funded their 401k, and she said, start your career off with 15% out of your paycheck. You'll never miss it because you never saw it. So it made sense to him, and he said, everybody else in the room was like, no way, no way, no way. And I wasn't working at the time. We had 2 small children. And he did it. He signed up for it. And he never stopped it. So from the time he was 25 until he retired at 70, he put 15% of his income, every paycheck, into a 401k. I was not quite as good as he was, and I did not do that as well. I didn't work for a while, and then I had this job, this job, this job. Never actually worked for a corporation that did 401ks for a long, long time. And there weren't Roth IRAs back then that I know of. And so I didn't put money back. But he was consistent. Every paycheck, twice a month, there it went. Did we have highs? Did we have lows? Yes. The stock market went up, the stock market went down, up, down, up, down. I think it was 2008. We lost more than half our money. But through the years after that, we're able to recover. And then when I worked all these jobs here, job here, job there, for all those years, and then finally, when I graduated nursing school at age 40, and went to work, I found my company did 401k. Well, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the first decent paycheck I've had in years. I'm not going to cut part of it out with 401k. I wasn't very smart back then. And so I didn't. And I opened the 401k and I put, little piddly amounts in. And then a couple of years later, my husband was like, you're not at least contributing what they match, which I think was 3 to 4% back then. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I think I'm doing like $50 a paycheck or $25 a paycheck or something. And he was like, honey, you at least have to change it too. I'm sorry that my camera has my doorknob to my closet in it there. That's kind of unsightly. But anyway, he said, you at least have to do the amount that they are going to match for you. Okay, so I did. And it was 3 or 4%. I forget what it was. And put it back there, never thought about it again. And they're matching. I'm putting in like 3 or 4% of my paycheck, and they're matching 3 or 4%. Okay. So we went along through the years. There were times we could have really used that money that he was putting back in 401k, but we never did, and he never touched it. And I'm so sorry, I've got something in my eye this morning. So we went along years. Okay. Now let's get to the point where he's getting ready to retire. Well, we didn't know he was going to retire, but all of a sudden, we live in Texas, and all of a sudden his company kept shutting down sites and shutting down sites and shutting down sites. And he worked remotely at the time, but all of a sudden they said, okay, we're moving to Cincinnati, and you either move or you no longer have a job. So it was a forced move. And he had just turned 70. And he was like, not gonna happen. So he retired at 70. We were in shock for a few weeks, but we got over it quickly because I was still working. And now I had been in my career almost 30 years. I was making decent money. I was in a management position. I made a real decent paycheck, plus I had bonuses at the end of the year. So we were doing okay. So then we're going along, and I'm still working. And he was 75 when this event occurred. I have to go back and do a little backstory. He is the baby of 10 kids. Now, he has a twin brother who's 15 minutes older than him, but he is actually the baby of 10 kids. So there were 7 boys and 3 girls. I'm sorry, I had to count. One of his sisters died very, very early in our life because she was the firstborn. And when he was born, his brother above him was 14. So there was a huge gap there. And then the other brothers were more and more and more and more. So when he was born, he had brothers that were already married and had families, much older than he. And so when he got to be in his early 70s, 70-ish, maybe even a little bit before, his brothers started dying. The oldest one died. And then the next oldest one died. And then the next oldest one died. And there was one brother left alive above he and his twin brother. So when he passed away, we were over at his daughter's home. And after the funeral, visiting and all the families there. And trust me, even though all the brothers died, there's cousins and aunts and uncles and all these people. So there's a lot of people. And the conversation around the table got to this brother that had just died and what age he was. And he was 85. And then someone sitting around in our group who was really good with family history said, well, yeah, so-and-so died at 85. And so-and-so died at 85. And so-and-so died at 85. So all of his brothers had died at 85. So there was a year or two in there, and he wasn't 75 yet because I was maybe 67, so he was like 72 or 73. And all of a sudden, a couple of years passed, and then we decided that I was going to retire. And I wasn't 70 yet, but we had always said if we could, we would take our retirement at 70 and get the max amount that you could get. So he had already done that, not by his own choice, but because his company moved. And I was in a situation where I had been working from home for about 2.5 or 3 years. And all of a sudden, they decided they wanted us to come back into the workplace. And I was like, no. You know, I was getting used to getting up in the morning, grabbing my coffee, logging onto my computer, checking my emails, and then actually logging into work. And all of our meetings were Zoom, so all you had to do was throw a little face paint on, get a shirt on, and sit down in front of the computer, and you were good. You might still have your pajama bottoms or your gown on under it, but it was a pretty nice life. I really enjoyed it. And I had to go in occasionally for some sort of meeting, but mostly everything was from home. So when they said that they were going to, on the first of the year, have us all come back into the workplace, I was like, I hate to be a sissy, but that getting up and getting ready at 7 in the morning and getting your dress clothes on and I didn't wear heels, but pumps and all that kind of thing, and going into work, I was just over it. Loved my job, but I was over going into that workplace. So we talked it over and decided that I would retire. Now, the other part of the story, and I'm telling you the whole story for one reason, and that is we had a huge mindset change at one point in our retirement that changed our lives completely. So here we are, we decided I'm going to retire. Now, I'm not 70 yet, but I was born at a certain period in time where, I forget the years, but I just hit the years where if you retired before 70, you could draw half of your husband or spouse's retirement up until you reach the age of 70, and then you could draw your full retirement at 70. So I checked with all my investment people, no, yes, and the government, yes, and that is the law, and yes, that is true. So I retired and began drawing half of his Social Security. Now, what we didn't know was when they say half of his Social Security, we're like, okay, we knew exactly what we're going to be making. But it wasn't half of the Social Security that he drew at 70. It was half of the Social Security that he would have drawn had he retired at 65. So it was a little less money than what we thought, but still survivable. So then here comes the day we retire. Now, I'm going to, because it's easy for me to go to the left, I'm going to say, over here is our nest egg. Now, let me go back. I have to fill in one detail. As I got closer to retirement, now let's say I got to be 60, I was like, dang, he's got a lot of money in his retirement. Maybe I better start doubling up and tripling up. So I started pouring money into my retirement account, which you could play catch up at some points. And so I began putting more and more in, certainly the 15 to 20% and any catch-ups that you could do. So I started pouring money. So now here comes the day we're retired. Totally retired. Awesome. And over here is said nest egg that we have worked all of our lives for and sacrificed and put money back for the retirement nest egg. Great job. Great job. Our investment people that we work with, they also, when I went in, they said, great job, you guys. You did a really good job. So we were like, okay, great. We did a good job. So here's the nest egg. Now remember the nest eggs over here. So then I retired. And I retired on a Friday. And Thursday was the end of a pay period. We got paid every other Thursday. So that next week came along, no big deal. And then the next week came, and Thursday came, and there's no paycheck in my checking account. Our checking account, we've always pulled our money. We're old-fashioned like that. And then there's no nest egg. There's no paycheck in my checking account. I've gotten a paycheck every Thursday, every other Thursday, for the last 30 years. And let me tell you, it was a shock. It was just like one of those, okay, well we knew this was how it was going to be. Yeah, we knew. Yeah. We knew, but I don't think we realized. So then the following week, I got my severance package, or all of my PTO and my retirement bonus and this kind of thing, a lump sum amount. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, I feel a little better, okay. I made something in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And then the next Thursday came, 2 weeks later, no paycheck. Well, my husband had to start his career over about 10 years before he retired. Because the company he went to work for went out of business, and so he wasn't making as much money as I was at that point. You know what? He was making as much money, but he wasn't bringing home as much money because we took our insurance through him. He had the big 401k investment and everything. So when I retired, the biggest part of our income was gone. And I'm not going to say it wasn't kind of a shock. Now, also, if you're at retirement age, getting close, of course, there's RMD, required minimum distribution, which you must take from the age 70 for him. You have to take every year. And it's a percentage based on your expected life expectancy and blah, 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 formula. I learned it once and then I forgot it. And so we were taking his RMD in one lump sum every year. We were living on my paycheck, his Social Security, and we lived on that. And then in November every year, we took his RMD, which took us through Christmas and bought all of our Christmas gifts and yada, yada. So we had a system going there. Well, now all of a sudden, I'm retired. And my paycheck's gone. Both my paychecks are gone every other Thursday. So it was a shock. And my husband, more than me, was kind of afraid to touch this nest egg. We've worked all our lives to save that. I don't want to just start spinning it and spinning it and spinning it, and then it's gone. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, honey, you're right. And it was nice to have that nest egg there that we weren't touching. And then I reached 70 and my income, my Social Security increased. So we got, well, it was double actually what I was drawing. Now my retirement at 70 was double when I had been drawing half of what his would have been at 65. So, okay, that's good. That's a little breathing room. And we decided, you know what? Maybe we won't take his RMD in a one lump sum at the year. Maybe we'll spread it out over 12 months and get 12 monthly checks to kind of increase our monthly income. I don't know what we thought we were going to do about Christmas, but that took care of itself. And so that's what we did. So then we had my Social Security, his Social Security, and now we had our RMD coming in on monthly checks. So all of a sudden we're like, okay, this feels a little bit better. Okay, now that's the story I should have told you first. Now let me preface this with saying, don't think that we didn't do something when we both retired that we both enjoyed. The big retirement travel or vacation or celebration, whatever. We did. He is very much a mountain person. He loves the mountains. He loves the cold. He loves the snow. We're in Texas. Okay. So for years, I'm going to say 30 years at least. And I'm the beach girl. Okay. I'm the beach girl. Take me to the beach. Let me put my toes in the sand. Let me watch the waves. Let me hear the waves. Let me smell the salt water. Let me taste the salt water. I'm a beach girl. I'm a sun girl. Put me in the pool, okay? Please put me in the pool. Let me just float for days. I don't care. So we had come across a solution that 1 week we would go, 1 year we would go to the beach. This is back when we were working, our week vacation. 1 week we took our other week at Christmas time. 1 week we would go to the beach, and the next 1 year we would go to the beach, and the next year we would go to the mountains. It worked out perfect. We never had a thing where like, well, I really want to go to the beach this year. No, it was alternating. Every other year we did the opposite thing. You know, he hated the beach worse than I hated the mountains, and I didn't hate the mountains. I loved the mountains. But he's about this color here, and I have an olive complexion, and I get in the sun and I just tan. And he just fries to a crisp, and then it burns and it peels and it all peels off, and then he burns again. It's not a good situation. I have a picture of us at the beach one time where he took a picture of me, and I'm stretched out on my beach towel, oiled up from one end to the other, in the sun, sunglasses and hat on. I always wore a hat. I never put sun on my face. Did makeup for that. But the rest of my body got sun. Here I am in my little space at the beach. Then a few minutes later, I took a picture of him. He's in a chair that we'd rented, a beach chair, you know, like a lawn chair. Lay down. And he has on his swim trunks and a t-shirt and a hat and sunglasses, and he's under a huge beach umbrella. And there's sunscreen all over him. So that's how he went to the beach. So needless to say, it wasn't the most enjoyable thing for him. I could go to the mountains and bundle up and enjoy looking at the scenery and the trees and the mountains and the snow and all that. But he, every year, took me to the beach because that's what I loved. So when we went to the mountains, it was about a 10-hour drive from where we live, and it's not like humongous mountains. It's New Mexico mountains, but for Texans, that's the mountains. So we went up there, and I think we stayed in a hotel or a cabin maybe once or twice, and then we started renting a house through a VRBO, is that what it's called? So we rented this same house every time we went for probably 5 times, which would have been 10 years. Every time we went there, we rented the same house for like 5 days, because it took us a day and a half to drive there and a day and a half to come back. So 5 days and nights we stayed there. It was wonderful. We had our favorite restaurants. We had our favorite places to go. We also love to gamble. We're slot machine players. And so there were 2 or 3 little casinos there. And so we'd spend a couple of days, you know, just lazing around the house and enjoying the weather and beautiful, the fireplace roaring and the hot chocolate and all that stuff. And then a couple of nights, 2 or 3 nights we were there, we'd get dressed, we'd go out to dinner, and go to a casino for several hours and then come back. And so we had the best of all of our worlds up there, except I wasn't laying on the beach. So then, after we'd stayed there, I think 4 times or 5 times, the couple who owned the house that had it listed through VRBO, was a doctor and his wife. They retired and moved into their house full time, so it was taken off the VRBO site. So I called them and we walked through. This is my requirement. We've got to have this. We've got to have this. We've got to have this. We've got to have a mountain view. We've got to have this. We've got to have this. Blah, blah. Got to have privacy. Don't want to be down a dirt road. Blah, blah, blah. We had all these. Well, they found us the perfect house. So the next year when we went to the perfect house, and it even had an upstairs and had a balcony off the upstairs for even more beautiful views than the front porch. So it was our spot. So I said all that to say that when we retired, we rented that house for 2 weeks, and we drove a little over 2 weeks. Well, no, 2 weeks, 14 nights, and then our drive time was at the beginning and the end. It didn't matter because we were retired. So that was our retirement trip. We went up to the mountains, and it was winter time, and it was snowing, and it was beautiful, and it was wonderful. So that's what we did for retirement. Now, we're not world travelers. Neither one of us cares anything about going to another country at this point. Totally at this point, we don't. And we never were people that internationally traveled. He had traveled internationally for his company that he worked for at one time. And I've been to Mexico and Canada. And Alaska, which is the States, but you gotta go to Canada to get there. So, but neither one of us had this burning desire to get on a plane and fly across the ocean and go to another country. So that's okay. Our little short vacations that we loved and enjoyed were fine with us. So, but we took that vacation. Part of it was my retirement package and blah 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 blah. But now we've still got the nest egg sitting over here. Remember, that was the first story I told you. No, the first story I told you was about the brothers passing. So when the last brother passed, my husband was 75. And this is the one where we discovered they all died at 85. So we came home and we sat on it for a few months, and then finally, and let me also go back and say that in previous videos I've explained to you my family history, and that is that my father died at 59 of a brain tumor. My only sibling died at 46 of a brain aneurysm, and my mom died at 43 of complications from diabetes. So that was my genetics. His genetics is, it appears as though all the men in his family died at 85. So we took these two things into consideration. And we were sitting out on our back patio one day talking. I told him, I said, honey, let's face it, we have 10 good years left. And we talked about, even if we both lived way past that 10 years, what was our health going to be like? Because all of his brothers died in poor health at 85. So what was our health going to be like? Were we going to be able to jump in the car and drive wherever we wanted to and go? And well, we've never hiked. No, don't even let me trick you into thinking that. But sightsee, go and sightsee and do things. And were we going to be able to do that in 10 years? Probably not. He would be 85. And I would be 80. And what's the likelihood that we're going to be able to do all the things you want to do? So we decided we had 10 good years left. to enjoy and do whatever we wanted. So we both decided together that we would touch the nest egg. So that's where our mind shift went. We were living just fine on the amount of money that we had, the Social Security and the RMDs, the two Social Securities, the RMDs. We were doing fine. Oh, you need some makeup? Okay, you need some makeup. Oh, you need some this? Okay, you get this. Okay. We had the Apple phones. We had the Apple watches. We had iPads. We had all the things we wanted. We had the 85-inch television. Just saying. That was not my purchase. But we had the things that we enjoyed. So we decided that we were going to start drawing from our nest egg to bring our income back up to where it was when we were both working at the end of both of our careers. And it was a big process for him to process that. I'm like, yeah, enjoy it while you can. Do we want to leave our children something? Of course. But our children are both taken care of to a certain extent. They both have paid-for homes to live in. So that's a huge gift from your parents when they die. And we'll have money left out of our nest egg. Maybe. Oh, I'm just kidding. Of course we will. We haven't taken a trip in a year. We haven't done anything. But that was the mind shift that we went through. We went through we're just working along and going along and living our life. And then, we're retired. Here's the nest egg, but oh my gosh, what if we live 25 more years? What if that money has to last us 25 years? Oh, I'm scared. Let's don't touch it. Let's make do on what we're making outside that. To this mind shift of, wait a minute. If we have 10 good years, then we worked all of our lives to leave our children our nest egg. I don't mind leaving part of it, but not the whole thing. So this is not information for you. This is not me telling you, oh, you should think this way. No, you have different genetics. You have different family backgrounds. You have different disease processes that you might be going through. Everybody's different. I'm not saying that this is what you need to do. Trust me. But what I'm saying is, this is what we did in our retirement. This is our huge mind shift that we went through to go, oh, we worked all our life saving it. Don't spend it. Don't touch it. To, we worked all our life working and saving it. Let's enjoy it. So, what do we do that we enjoy? I told you we go to the casino. Those trips haven't increased, and they haven't even increased in money, but it's just, you don't even think about it now. And little things like, sounds like it's all about me, but it's not. Oh, I know. All the tools he's ever wanted, he's like, I want that. What are you going to do with that? What does that do? I don't care. I want it. Okay. So I'm a coffee freak. And the last 5 years, I have wanted an espresso machine. A real espresso machine. So now, in previous videos, if you haven't watched them, let me just catch you up. There are 8 of us living in this house. I have myself and my husband. I have my daughter and her husband. I have their 31-year-old daughter who is disabled in a wheelchair and needs care. Her mother provides that care and has done it for 31 years beautifully. And the fact that she never could work because of that is one of the reasons why when they moved in here to save money to buy a house, that never came to fruition because she was never able to work after that. She tried, put her child in daycare for 2 minutes, and when we saw what was happening with her disability, we were like, nope, that's not going to happen. And so she chose to stay home and raise her child. In the end of it, she ended up having another child, totally unexpected. And he's now 24, the granddaughter's 31. And he stayed here after he got out of high school because he was in college. And we're like, yes, of course you can stay here while you're in college. He worked full time. He paid all his own expenses, his food, his gas, his insurance, his car, and all that stuff. He paid all that and anything he wanted to do. And then he graduated, and he didn't go to a 4-year college. He went to trade school, and he didn't graduate. He graduated when he was 22. And at the very end, in the last year of his school, he and his girlfriend of 7 years had a baby. They chose to not get married. She stayed at her house. He lived here. We just assumed when the baby was born, she would go home to her house. And we had a crib over here. She had a crib at her house. And that there would be lots of mixing up, but they would live in their own homes. No, she came home from the hospital with the baby here, and they're still here. And it's 3 years. It took my grandson a year to get a job. His training is airline mechanic, and he was very selective. He talked to enough people he knew. He was very selective about where he wanted to go to work and where he wanted to start his career. And instead of, he could have gone to work for small airlines, but to get on with one of the big airlines, he had to bide his time, wait till there were openings, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, it took him a year to get a job. He's now been there a year. He's currently in Wisconsin right now because they fly them up to repair airplanes all over the place. It's the weirdest thing in the world to me, but why don't they have their own crew? Okay. Anyway, but so he and his girlfriend and baby live here. Short-term girlfriend because they just went to Florida week before last on vacation, and he proposed. So they're getting married a year from now, a year from May. And wedding date set, deposits are made on the venue, all this is done. And so, will they be here that whole year? Probably. She works full time, he works full time. My daughter keeps the baby. He's 3 now, but we call him the baby. I have another great grandchild that's just 6 weeks old. So that's my son's daughter who had the baby. They live across the street and 2 doors up from us. So we kind of have our own family compound. But we have 8 people living here. And I can't remember why I was saying that, but anyway, we have a house full. And, you know, a multi-generational house is chaotic and crazy and nerve-wracking at times. But I feel so blessed to, number one, remember my family history, to have lived this long. And every day after 60 has been a celebration for me. But to live multi-generational in this house and have the ability to, of course, raise my children in this house, the same house, watch them raise their children across the street and over here, and then for that generation to begin having children, and me be able to share memories and time and wisdom and lessons with them is a blessing. And for all the craziness it is, I'll look at it as a blessing every single day. So, I can't remember why I was bringing up the family and everybody here, but that's that. The mindset and spending. That's what I wanted to make this video about. That certainly don't do what we did. Oh my gosh, we can't spend it. Oh my gosh, yes we can, it's ours. We've only got this much time. So like I told my husband one day, well, I'll finish with that, but you do what works for you. You've got your own life and your own history and your own what you think is going to happen in your future, and you do whatever you need to do. You might want to leave your entire nest egg to your children. Great, maybe you have 8 children. I have 2. But they're all pretty self-sufficient. We just happen to share a home. And I get the grace and benefit of my son-in-law, who is the best cook and loves to cook, and comes home from work every day at 3:30 and hits the kitchen. And he cooks like a genius. So he cooked Easter dinner, and I didn't do things except walk in the kitchen and get my plate. So we trade off a lot of things in this house. You might have to wait in line for the washing machine or to put some in the microwave, but those are small inconveniences compared to what I think we've grown. But that's the video I wanted to make about how our spending changed and not how our spending changed, but our mindset around money and the money that we had and the time that we had left in life. So I'll end with this. I told my husband, which makes all my friends laugh, I told my husband, you know what, once we're 85, if the money's all gone, we had a really good time. And if we have to spend the next 10 years out on the patio in our rocking chairs, eating beans and bologna, I'm okay with that. So thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to leave a little sparkle wherever you go.